Welcome, citizens, to Liberty, Tales from the Tower. As your media director, it is my privilege to inform you that the following stories will contain content that some listeners will certainly find disturbing. But first, we would like to introduce the new Tales from the Tower co-host and voice of our sponsors, Aurelia Stolo. Citizen Stolo will be an excellent addition to our team, and we look forward to working alongside her. Citizen Stolo is known as the voice behind Atrian Lifetime News, and we welcome her to AB3.
Thank you, Manager Desta. I look forward to helping entertain and inform alongside you all. And now, a word from our sponsors. Additionally, we would like to remind everyone in Tower 17 of District 11 that maintenance workers from the Division of Vital Functions will be undertaking extensive repairs and calibrations throughout all floors of the tower following yesterday's fire. The cause of the fire remains unknown, but by tonight the gravity, oxygen, pressure, and temperature levels should return to normal.
On the topic of normal, it is easy to overlook the small things that make up your daily routine. For instance, a misplaced data pad or an odd elevator ride can certainly undermine the normal feel of life. Tonight's tale, Floor None, was written by K.A. Statz and is read for us by Travis Vengroff. After several years as the bottom-rung lackey at an interior decorating team, I gratefully accepted a new position as the interdepartmental courier for a new research team at the Division of Vital Functions. Selected floors of a particularly damaged tower in District 9 had been rebuilt, renovated, and modified over the last few months to suit the needs of a new set of research and testing units. Many divisions had labs across the tower, and it was set to be a new hub of local employment for the many young, talented minds that Director Yale had recruited in the most recent citywide initiative. Many of the other workers were already hired, everything from research leads to janitorial staff, but a couple of additions were overlooked at the beginning. The courier job was one, thankfully, and I got the position with ease. About a week into the job, I was already extremely happy with my new work. It was a big upgrade from catering strange sculptures and furniture across the city. Now I was responsible for delivering items between labs, floors, and even buildings within the district. My new job felt more meaningful, and I took some pride in being entrusted with objects that could provide real benefit to Atreus. In the middle of my second week, I was running a whole queue of interlaboratory packages from one floor to another. Floor 8 had a whole cart carefully piled with equipment to be delivered up to floor 19. A rather nonchalant, green-garbed researcher signed over the cart to me, and I headed off with a loaded trolley toward the floor lobby. I passed the recreation hall on the way and stepped in to take a quick drink. Inside sat a few floor 8 lab workers near the end of their shift, taking time to catch up and reflect on their day. Octavia, a junior engineer I had known since we were children, was seated across from the entrance and greeted me upon arrival. Before I could set aside my cart, she rose and poured me a glass of water. Octavia's a wonderful woman, very friendly and talkative. She'd always been the smartest of us, and it was great luck that I got to work near her, even now.
How are you tonight, Festus? I'm so happy my shift is nearly over. This place really disturbs me this late in the evening.
Disturbs? This did not add to 8, as the whole building was newly renovated and our department's floors were clean, brightly lit, perfectly functional, and inhabited by a bustling crowd of researchers at all hours.
Yes, it makes me feel so uneasy. Sorry, I can't really explain it. Flavia and Tertius from my team also get the same feeling sometimes. Have you? Do you get the same feeling, I mean?
No, I can't say I have. I really like the new renovation aesthetic. The tower is easy to navigate and very clean. If anything, I think it puts me at ease.
Well, maybe it's our lab then. I don't know.
I downed the drink and pondered that perhaps she was simply accustomed to the general dilapidated nature of Tower 9. The tower we had grown up in had been a bit run down, and she'd always said it felt lived in. But my thoughts were interrupted by the beeping of my data pad. The delivery queue was awaiting confirmation.
Sounds like you were busy. Have a pleasant evening, Festus, and I'll see you tomorrow, maybe. May the Archon watch over you.
Thanks, you too. She stirred her drink and returned to the table of chatting workers, all in varied lab attire. Usually we would have spoken for longer, but some of the other lab workers had glared over at us during our short conversation. Octavia had been facing me, but she was very keen and aware of her surroundings. She certainly did not appear to be overly enthused to rejoin the Sour group, but they were her coworkers, and I had a job to do too. I nodded to myself and turned the cart around, heading out the door. The lobby was empty when I arrived, but one of the elevator doors had already stood open and vacant. so I carefully wheeled the cart into the lift. As I pushed the cart, the front wheel struck the edge of the elevator platform and unbalanced several pieces perched in the front. Fully in the lift, I scrambled forward to catch and adjust the falling equipment as the door slid shut with a ding. With everything securely back in place, I reached out for the indicator for floor 19, but pulled back in slight surprise. The buttons, the whole panel was missing. In its place was a simple metal sheet, wholly consistent with the interior of the elevator. The door was already shut, and the elevator jostled slightly as it began to move. Confused, I looked for a service button of any kind, but found nothing. I assumed I was in some sort of maintenance or private elevator with a preset destination, and unable to do otherwise, I awkwardly waited for my arrival. Some of the private and secured floors had specific elevators, and I grew anxious of my job security as I approached what I suspected might be an angered supervisor or security team at my destination. When the elevator finally stopped, I noticed that I did not know whether I had traveled up or down, seeing as I had spent most of my time stressing over all possible excuses to avoid a firing scenario. As the door chimed open, I tried my best to form a casual smile while waiting for the chastising words of security personnel, but no one was there. The door slid open with a silent glide, and before me was a plain hallway void of angry or armed guards. Relieved, I stepped outside of the elevator and pulled the cart out behind me. I paid careful attention to the stacked objects this time as I passed over the ridge. It was fine, and I took a short moment to collect my thoughts. Wondering where I had ended up, I checked the outside of the door for a floor number indicator, but to no avail. I still had no idea where I was. Additionally, the elevator door crept closed while I inspected the hallway, and I only leapt toward it after my attempt was certainly futile. The door shut, and as far as I could see, there was no call button. With the elevator gone, I stood in the hallway in silence. There were 2 doors in the left wall, 2 on the right, as well as another at the end of the hall. It was a relatively short section of hall, and the doors were rather close to each other, which led me to believe that they were storage closets or single offices instead of labs like most other floors. I checked my datapad for internal intranet signal, but soon discovered I was unable to even send a message. Regardless, I typed up a quick note to my supervisor and to Octavia in the hopes that it would go out when the signal reconnected. Stuck on private floor. Unable to call elevator. No signal here. Please locate. I included a sad face emoji in the message to Octavia so she wouldn't think my life was in immediate danger, and didn't mark the message to my supervisor as urgent either. I waited for what I assumed was 5 minutes, listening to my anxious heartbeat. It was an awkward feeling, like running late to courses as a student, and yet not wanting to go in to acknowledge your tardiness. I'd made a mistake, but until I let others know or was discovered, I was safe. But it would not last forever, and I still had parcels to deliver. So, after several minutes of silently standing around, I walked over to the nearest door on the left and knocked lightly. Hello? This is the interdivisional courier. Did you request a package pickup? I lied. It was a defense mechanism. They should not be overly angered with me for just trying to do my job, but there was no response, which led me to try the same tactic with the opposite door. Yet when no one responded, I wondered if this floor was even meant to be in operation. With the new labs moving into the building, there may be some floors, or at least some sections of floors, that remain unassigned or without use. This idea only raised my stress regarding being stuck on a floor without an elevator call or a noticeable emergency exit, so I tried the next door. This is the interdivisional courier. Did you request a package pickup? Nothing. Maybe? At this point, after no reply, I summoned false courage and tried to open the door. It was securely locked. I admit this is what I had expected. I walked around my cart, which stood in the middle of the hallway, and tried the last door in the left wall. The moment I placed my knuckles against the door, a great scream launched itself on my right from the final door at the end of the hall. The voice of a woman unleashed a dreadful howl and panicked pleas for help, her voice penetrating through the metal. I rushed over to the door at the end of the hallway and shoved it open as quickly as possible. Unlike the others, it was not locked, and I found myself in a room and scattered on its floor from the force of my fumble. Once I hit the floor, the yelling stopped completely. It was silent again, but I was breathing heavily and my head ached from where I had struck the floor. I stood up to scan the room. It stretched a little over 3 stories tall, with metal crates stacked in piles around the walls and sides. Directly in the center was a disturbing set of tall male mannequins and varying models of tactical armor positioned at the end of a shooting range. I guess the hall had been an old shooting or testing range that was converted into storage. The ceiling lights beamed harsh white light from above, but none of the first floor wall lights seemed operational. If this was an old military research and testing ground, the screams I heard most likely came from some test dummy stuffed away in a crate. Now that I had a sense of the space, I looked with more intent. There was a flight of stairs leading to a ring balcony that comprised the second and third floors, and from the looks of it, there was an old interfloor communication relay in the upper corner of the room. The relay could allow me to contact the tower's maintenance crew office, so I headed over to the stairs. The loud clang of my footfalls in the metal contrasted the heavy silence that seemed as much a part of the room as the warm, stale air. I felt as though I were disturbing a vital peace. When I reached halfway up the stairs, the ceiling lights flickered, and I halted my ascent. I feared they might be on a timer, but the flickering soon stopped, and I continued. Upon reaching the final step, they sputtered again as I made my way over toward the comms relay. It was there, a few scant paces away from my destination, that the lights died completely. With no windows and no auxiliary lights, the entire room plunged into darkness, becoming a gaseous fog around me. I waved my arms, jumped, and did my best to trigger any kind of motion sensor, waiting for a few moments in the darkness. I briefly considered calling out. Perhaps someone on the work crew, or an electrician with an earshot turned them off? I can't explain why, but in that moment, I was too scared to call out. Seeing no alternative, I kept my course and continued toward where I believed the relay to be, my footfalls sending metal vibrations through the dark room. Even without lights, I still hoped it would function. After a few steps, I thought I heard something and stopped walking. A skittering noise. Tiny scrapes and taps against the metal floor scurried around me. Then they stopped. It was silent again as I remained still, listening for anything and recalling my wandering arms. Seconds passed, maybe a minute, and after nothing happened, I moved myself forward, my arms back out in front of me, searching for the panel. But behind me, I heard it. A clickety-clack any time I stepped, and the sounds were not coming from me. I lifted my foot and placed it down to the ground as slowly and softly as possible, making no noise. Click. Then I heard something else. I held my breath, but I could still hear it, a breathing. The breath was soft but wheezy, and for a moment I thought I heard the clattering of teeth. I stepped again, and the click grew closer. The wheeze grew louder. For a brief moment, my fear overcame me, and I turned around, my grasping arms in the darkness flailing about, and I touched it. I fumbled and crashed, fleeing my way back toward the stairs. Whatever I had touched in that darkness had dashed away, but now, out of sync with me and its existence discovered, I could hear it skittering. It ran about me, wide circles growing smaller and smaller as it scurried in the dark. What I had touched was large. Not some short little thing, but something large enough to be touched with my hand straight out in front of me. The wheezing was so clear now, so much louder, and it was approaching. But I had reached the first step and gripped the handrail as I vaulted myself down several stairs at a time. Missing the mark, my feet slid out from beneath me, glancing off the edge of a step in the pitch black and casting me down the stairs in a painful heap. My rolling body was thankfully faster than the skittering menace, and I reached the bottom of the stairs quickly. Adrenaline propelled my actions. My painful descent cracked my knee and my wrist burned as I stood to rush a blind path to the entrance. I reached out an arm, and my hand landed on something's rounded head. As I recoiled in surprise and terror, the mannequin didn't move. I composed myself quickly and set off seeking the door again, lost within the maze of crates and bodies. The skittering was close upon me now. Every time I moved, the thing moved with me, and I could hear it dash from my left to my right across the metal floor. When you spend enough time in the dark, your mind starts to see things, forms, colors, and shapes. In that moment, the things my mind imagined in that all-consuming darkness were terrible, but certainly could not have been real. I was descending into panic and fear and letting the dark drag me there. But it was with another fumbling step that a sliver of light cut through the empty black room. Real light coming from beneath the door, and it burned like a beacon to my overwhelmed mind. Turning toward the light, I felt air brush by me as the thing in the darkness moved terrifyingly close. If it could so easily catch up to me, why not just grab me? It skittered away. But as I grew closer to the door, its horrible noise was right upon me again. I stretched and grasped within reach of the doorframe, but some grip in the dark seized my clothing and attempted to rip me back into the abyss. Its grip settled on the hard corners of my data pad, and to free myself, I unclipped it from my belt, sending the unseen force rolling back with a clatter. My brief victory invigorated me, and I reached the door, swinging it open and tumbling out into that sweet, sickly fluorescent light. I could hear the moving thing right itself and approaching so quickly this time, and I clamored to slam the door. As I pressed my weight against it, a large crash shook the metal and momentarily threw me off balance. Repositioned and ready, the crashes came in volleys and were paired with skittering and tapping against the back of the door. Whatever it was, tried fervently to break through. Though whether freedom or I was the target, I cannot say. Between bombardments and clicks, I heard a soft mechanical buzz I didn't recognize at first, but as my eyes scanned the small hallway for any source of aid, I set my gaze upon the elevator. The soft buzz was the elevator activating and moving, hopefully soon to a position on my floor. I waited for the end of a torrent of attacks and leapt from my cart, yanking it back toward the door with me and placing it in tandem with my weight against it. The cart shook, and the objects I had tried to protect scattered on the floor with all manner of termination-sure sounds. I would rather lose my job than my life. This was it. The elevator doors began to slide open, and I waited for them to reach their full width. As the crashing and clicking sounds lulled, new wheezing howls and disturbed laughter poured through from under the door. But the lull was all I needed, and I fled full speed across the small hallway and into the open elevator. I crashed in just as the doors began to close and slammed my spine against the back of the elevator. Looking out the closing doors, I saw the volley begin again, and the great door pushed open slightly, cascading my cart and breakables across the tiles. Another volley, it opened more. The gap in the elevator doors grew smaller, and with the final volley, I could see the door burst open as the lights in the hallway popped and died. The closed but illuminated elevator was on its way. The soft mechanical whir, unaware of the horror it replaced. Still shaking, I breathed a tense sigh of relief. I had been holding my breath for what felt like minutes, and my lungs burned. The door opened to an empty elevator lobby, and I cautiously jumped out, one leg in the door to stop it from closing behind me again. The call buttons were there. There were the floor indicator signs. I was on floor 12. I removed my leg from the door and let the elevator leave. I took the stairs to the ground floor. I could not explain what happened to anyone without disbelief. There was no empty floor, certainly not on a fully renovated tower, now brimming with labs and administration centers. I was placed on a short unpaid suspension due to the unexplained loss of materials. At first, the department thought I had stolen them, but there was no footage of me removing laboratory property from the tower, nor any change to my finances. Thankfully, the lost items were replaceable, and after several days I returned to work. My first day back, I ran into Octavia. She looked upset and raised her datapad at me.
Festus, why do you keep leaving me such weird messages? Is this a prank to make me feel upset about saying this place unsettles me? It's not funny. You know I don't like this kind of joke.
What? No, I haven't sent you anything. I mean, I sent you that one message, but...
Then what's this? You have called dozens of times and you keep leaving these creepy voicemails. Festus, you're my friend. Normally, if you kept doing this, I'd have to report you. I don't want to do that.
But I don't even... She silenced my protestations and pushed the datapad at me. She tapped the screen and hit play on a voicemail. Thank you for listening to Liberty, Tales from the Tower. Floor None was written by K.A. Statz. Tales from the Tower is co-created by K.A. Statz and Travis Vengroff. Floor None was read for us by Travis Vengroff and Lauren Tucker. Produced with sound design by Travis Vengroff and Rikke Rømer, with music by Brandon Boone and Yoshitaka Hirota, and mixing and mastering by Finnur Nielsen. If you would like more information about the world of Liberty, please check out libertyendures.com or follow Atrius Endures on social media. This production is copyrighted 2016 and 2025 by Fool and Scholar Productions, and Liberty is a trademark of Travis Vengroff. Thank you for listening. May the Archon watch over you.